G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. You guys absolutely loved yesterday's video, so I'm going to do today's video exactly the same. I'm going to recap all the biggest and best moments from today's FNCS, and especially today I want to highlight some of the reactions because genuinely some of these clips are the most touching and heartwarming things I've ever seen. The players who won today's FNCS, you could truly see how much it meant to them. So I want to talk about who won and how, a little bit of the drama that went down because it's Fortnite, there's always some drama in there as well, and then show you the moments they knew when they finally had won life-changing amounts of money. So let's kick it off with NA East, but also, I know what you guys are thinking. There are some huge team changes across the board being announced right now. We have Clicks now playing with Macwood and Bucky, so that means they've dropped Kanata. We have a whole bunch of crazy changes. Booker's now looking for a new team. Zate's coming back for an All-Stars event. I'm going to talk about all that in tomorrow's video. I think it's better if I make today a full FNCS recap, really do it properly like I did yesterday, and then make another video on that tomorrow, and also explaining some of this confusion about what is this $3 million solos tournament that's coming up. Hope you guys agree with that one. I kind of made that choice based on stream, but let's jump into it. How did FNCS go today? Day 2 of NAE saw no crazy changes. We didn't have major teams change up their drop spots. We didn't have any of the top teams getting contested, so everyone was starting off at even footing. And if you missed it, basically the leaderboard had Commandment, Sense, and Edgy on first on 201 points, Deyy, Mero, and Reverse in second on 193, DJ's team on 190, and then a pretty big gap down to Jamper, Threats, and Rise on 162. So unless something changed massively, it was kind of a 3-horse race. And honestly, no spoilers for the rest of the day. This is kind of what it followed. I want to focus on some of the big moments that involved the other teams as well, but it really was down to a race between these 3 teams. But game 1 was won by none of them. We actually saw Nosh, Nut, and Chucky manage to clutch it up and get the victory out from the high ground. This was particularly important because, like I said, when they won the game yesterday, they did really good in their qualifying week. They won 5 of 6 games, and a lot of people in the community, a lot of pros try to take that away from them, saying that, oh, you know, all the good teams weren't in there. You only got high ground for free because there was no Bucky team, there was no Aegis team. Well, this was the second time we saw them on height with those players in lobby, and they won yet again. It was a fantastic performance from them. Both Commandment, Sense, and Edgy had a pretty decent game again. They were consistently pushing forward. It wasn't an insane game, but Deyy, Mero, and Reverse had yet again another struggling game. Remember, they started off yesterday with a whole bunch of eliminations, really taking off, and then Sense and Edgy Command were kind of just having the more consistent good games without the crazy eliminations. But Deyy, Mero, and Reverse are on a big downward trend at this point. They are struggling. Game 2 kicks off, and then things got really scary for Deyy, Mero, and Reverse, and things looked really good for Commandment, Sense, and Edgy. We had Deyy, Mero, and Reverse going down with a 0 elim 24th. This was their worst game of the entire weekend, and it looked like after having 3 or 4 struggling games before this, they were really dropping off the pace, and they didn't have a mental reset from yesterday. Whatever was happening yesterday is carrying over into today. And in case you guys weren't watching the games, a lot of people asking what this was, what went wrong, or they were just keying too hard. It was actually because people were too scared of them. It was kind of like we saw with Noah Riley, Rezon, and Vidil over in Sweaty Sands last FNCS. They had built up such a reputation and had keyed all the teams around them so many times that they were rotating away from them. So they couldn't find their Storm Surge, and they kept going down because of it, which meant they were gonna have to do something drastic. They were gonna have to change something big, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But we ended up seeing game 2 won by Avery, Saf, and Stretch, who took the high ground. They had a fantastic game. I've been talking about how they've been the dominant high ground team, but unfortunately they were only able to find 3 eliminations. Now remember, in the game before first place, they got a 9 elimination second on the low ground against Chucky's team. So they're actually on the climb right now, and coming into this tournament, they were in, what was it, 6th place. So even though at the top there was a big gap jumping up to the top, it started to look like Saf, Avery, and Stretch could maybe do it. With the way they were playing high ground, a few more games like that, and they could have potentially caught up in a big way. Game number 3, we saw all 3 of our top teams having a little bit better of a game. We managed to have DJ, Aegis, and Skittles get a 3 elimination 4th. The game before this, they got a 4 elimination 5th, and the game before that, they got an 8 elimination 7th. So far in this FNCS, I haven't talked much about DJ, Aegis, and Skittles, but they were very much in the topic of conversation because they were the only team that after these 9 games had accrued at least 20 points in every single game. They had not gone down early. They They had not gone down on spawn a single time, and it was seeing them find a lot of consistency. But Deyy and Mero and Reverse finally found their footing yet again. They had a 3 elimination 6th, and this was on the back of them just walking over to retail row and just bullying a team. They were sick of walking around mid-game, not finding their storm surge, not knowing what was going on, so they just walked over and just took down an entire trio to get their surge back, and that was how their games were changing. That was their game plan. Everyone's running from us between the Kami split Lazy Lake. Let's just go find a team that's set up and let's just 3v3 them. And it actually worked. They ended up getting that 3 elim 6, so good points on the board compared to their last few games. But Scented Edgy Commandment was still playing so consistently with a 4 elimination 3rd on the back of a pretty big clutch by Scented as a solo. But the game did ultimately end up being won by Aspect, Kaz, and Who Fishy. Now, I haven't been talking about them much because day one, they've really struggled. They really did struggle off the back of somehow with an uncontested Pleasant Park, things just weren't going their way. But they got an 11 elimination 3rd in game 2, and now they're looking at an 8 elimination win. They're actually coming back. It's a 12 game format, so they're not really in like the top of your conversation for a top 3, but they're jumping up big into prize money at this point. NAE's game 4 saw another really consistent game from Deyy and Mero and Reverse, pulling out an 8 elimination 4th, proving that their mid-game strategy was back. This time, if I remember correctly, it was the game where they rotated to Weather Station and just completely, again, just keyed the first team they could find, took them out, and just kept pushing on with the surge. It's just, that was their change of strategy. Let's just run it full trios because tagging people at a distance isn't working. Everyone's running away from us. Commandment sent an Edgy, though, got a 4 elimination 2nd, a fantastic game to them, and it looks like we had a big jump back from a team that was incredibly quiet day one. I showed you guys the clips yesterday. The lag was ridiculous. We're getting a lot of south zones, and Bucky, Kanata, and Macwood were just not having a good time of it. They said they were going to come back with, you know, one of the biggest performances in Fortnite history, and this looked like they maybe were starting it. A 15 elim victory out, the highest elimination victory out of any of the games on NA East. It kind of jumped out of nowhere because on the broadcast, we were really focusing on the Deyy Mero Reverse, the Scented Commandment Edgy, and the Degen Ages Skittles because they were still locked in that 3-way race. But this was the time when, unfortunately, Degen Ages and Skittles would start to fall off the pace. I just talked about how they were the only team to have more than 20 points in every single game before this, and now things came unstuck. They went down early with a 0 elim 26, and it looked like Scented Edgy Commandment, Deyy Mero and Reverse were going to pull away with it. Game started with heartbreak for Degen Ages and Skittles. They went down as the first team down. They got a 2 elim 33rd, going from being the most consistent team for 9 games in a row now to have completely thrown 2, only getting 4 points in 2 games. And this meant that Scented Edgy Commandment, Reverse2k Deyy and Mero were running away with it. Going into the final 2 games after this happened, it was a 2-horse race. Now, the last couple games were big. You had Commandment, Scented Edgy pick up a 1 elimination 3rd. They were pretty shambles, clutching it out until the end game. A lot of solo clutches going on here from both sides, but Deyy, Mero, and Reverse, should I say Mero, came up with one of the biggest solo clutches I've ever seen. Deyy went down early in endgame. Mero and Reverse was still up. Reverse drops down to low ground. Mero with 5 builds decides he's gonna take high ground as a solo and ends up racking up eliminations and a 2nd place. They end on a 14 elimination 2nd place because Mero just had the confidence, the guts, the skills to go for a solo hype play. If he messed this up, he would have been ridiculed because this could have lost him the FNCS or controller brain. Why would you go for high ground as a solo? What are you doing? No, Mero just stepped up and just had one of the most alpha plays I've ever seen in Fortnite. He ended up getting it going down to Jamper, Threats, and Rise, who got the 8 elim win. Remember, they're still in the competition. They're still around top 5. And at the end of NA East, I'll talk more to some of the teams I haven't covered yet. But this was the story of Reverse2k Deyy and Mero versus Scented Edgy Commandment coming into the final game because they were neck and neck with Scented Edgy Commandment having a 2 elimination lead. A 2 elimination lead going into game 12 of an FNCS with one team having won an FNCS before, Reverse2k Deyy and Mero, with Scented team having been runners-up twice, one of those times to Reverse2k's team. Game 6 was everything you wanted it to be. Game 6 was interesting. And that's the only way I can put it. Scented Edgy Commandment needed to hold on to their 2 elimination lead. They actually had worse games when they got South Zones. When Zones came towards Scented Edgy Commandment at Misty Meadows, that's when things kind of came unstuck and they struggled a bit more for Surge because they weren't doing what Deyy, Mero, and Reverse are doing. They weren't just straight up keying teams. They were playing a lot safer. This time, they stayed south a little bit. They decided they were going to take a fight before rotating. Even though Zone wasn't on them, they took a very uncharacteristically aggressive fight over at Flush Factory. And now this was interesting because they weren't pushing one team, they were pushing 2 teams. And I have to imagine they did not know that it was Tragics and Scope that were also involved in a skirmish at Flush Factory. Scented pushes in and gets taken out. Scented goes down. For the first time we've seen it in all of the games leading up to this, Commandment and Edgy managed to get a couple of eliminations in this little fight. They end up getting Cented's card and having to disengage. But this is not the spot you want to be in. You're only got a 2 elimination lead. Deyy, Mero, and Reverse have been racking up points the last few games. They're on such an aggressive tear. They rotate out. They managed to reboot Scented at Weeping Woods, but they have next to no loot to show for it now. Deyy, Mero, and Reverse end up going almost down to Surge. They get stuck in a 3-way fight between them, DGen Asia's Skittles, and then Coop's team at the end of Pleasant Park Bridge. Coop's team jumps in as this massive box fight. I think Deyy gets knocked, Reverse gets the res. They manage to get up their Storm Surge, and now with those eliminations, they are pretty much tied with Scented Edgy Commandment's team, and Scented then gets bow, headshot, and finish. So Commandment Edgy have to try and hold on as a duo. It comes into the end game, and Deyy, Mero, and Reverse manage to clutch it up with a 6 elimination 6, getting them enough points to take out the first place, with Commandment, Scented, and Edgy only getting a 2 elimination 12th because Commandment and Edgy just couldn't hold on with the loot they had as a duo. And we see yet again Commandment, Scented, and Edgy, the back-to-back runners up, but Deyy, Mero, and Reverse are the 2 times FNCS champions. Reverse2k stepped up in front of everyone, made a video saying that they were the best team in NA East, and who are all these other random teams that don't deserve to be here? They're not the same caliber as us. Everyone, you know, either loved it or hated it. Some people thought it was hilarious. A lot of the pros were saying, look, Reverse2k has been disrespected for a long time now. It's good to see him, you know, showing his confidence, but that takes supreme confidence to put that target on your back and then back it up. After the day, they had the most amount of points on 171. Aspect, Kaz, and Fishy had 161 coming out of nowhere. They ended up winning game 6 with 7 eliminations, which jumped them up really high on the leaderboard with a huge day 2. Commandment, Scented, and Edgy got 106 and they just, 160, and they just fell short. Deyy, Mero, and Reverse were obviously incredibly excited about their win. I think Reverse2k had the funniest response to this. I'm going to show you the tweet that he made, and this is obviously reference to that video he made where he got a whole bunch of crap from the community and saying he had an ego and he was being arrogant. So let me just show you, because man, this is one of the best tweets I've ever seen come out of Fortnite. And I know people had mixed opinions to Reverse2k's video. I was saying that I thought it was great to have that level of confidence to step up and say you're just better than everyone else. But as someone who's been disrespected in the scene for such a long time, I was hoping it would come out of someone that wasn't Reverse2k. But it looks by putting that target on his back and then coming out and winning, I think Reverse2k is finally getting the respect that he deserves. My man has now won 2 FNCSs, qualified for World Cups of Solo, almost got Ninja to a World Cup duos, has been around for such a long time, and I think people are finally putting the respect on his name that he deserves. So in the end, it was a bit of fun, and to be fair, the teams he called out ended up they didn't do the best, and I'm not calling them out either. A lot of them had good reasons for that. They got contested or things just didn't go their way, but I like to focus on the positives, and I ended up thinking it was pretty funny. Also, I need to give a huge shout out to Mero here. There was a statistic that we were pushing pretty heavily on the broadcast that I think a lot of people have let fly under the radar. Deyy being Deyy, just an absolute demon, just walks through people like they're nothing and streams it a lot so you get to see it. I think Mero falls into the shadow a little bit. This is now the 3rd FNCS in a row, including the one they didn't even win, where Mero has more eliminations than any other player in the whole competition. 3 in a row. And in this one, he was taking over half the tarping. He was doing a lot of the co-IGLing. Mero is a different beast. Deyy will always be the open just king. He keys just one of the most insane controller players, and this weekend he played phenomenally as well. So did Reverse2k, but I've really got to highlight just how ridiculously good Mero has been for 3 seasons now, and people realize that. People talk about it, but I don't think people realize just how much. There was 2 games today where as a solo, he clutched up so many points, one of which he almost won a game of FNCS finals as a solo with 5 builds. Just ridiculous. But in saying that, I think Reverse2k had the funniest response. Deyy by far had the most heartfelt. I'll roll the clip of when he got to tell his parents that he won.
Oh my gosh, bro. Let's go, baby. Bro, oh my gosh, sir. Oh my gosh. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Go! You're the best!
Oh my gosh, bro. I can't believe it, bro.
Obviously, this means Centered Edgy Commandment are runners-up yet again. They finish on 361 points. They finish 11 points behind first, and a lot of people were sad about this, and I think Centered Edgy Commandment was sad about it as well, but runners-up 3 times in a row on one of, if not the most competitive regions in the world, as 2 players who came over from West, Centered and Edgy, when a lot of people thought they wouldn't even be able to perform at all. An absolutely ridiculous performance. That arguably makes them the best team in NA East, or if you want to say Reverse2k Deyy and Mero having 1-2 FNCSs and then another top 5, it makes them the 2nd best. That is still ridiculous. There is a debate whether they are the best or not the best. That final game was a bit of an uncharacteristic play. A lot of people saying that they threw their FNCS, blah, 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 yada, yada. You can't say that. You can't pull those 1 plays out with hindsight and say it through their FNCS, because like I just said, with Deyy, Mero, and Reverse, half the fights they pushed, if they lost them, you would have turned around and said they threw their FNCS. Or if Mero went for high ground and it didn't work and he died, they didn't get the points, you would have said they threw their FNCS. You can't, with hindsight, pick out those plays and try to kind of scrutinize it and say, oh, what a choke, what did they do there? It could have gone fantastically, and that could have been the difference between them winning. That's just how Fortnite works at the end of the day, and I think Commandment, Centered, and Edgy are 3 of the best players in the world, hands down, and I know they're going to do even more to make sure they're not runners up 4 times in a row, but even if they come 2nd again next FNCS, I would still be so incredibly proud if I was them, and I am so incredibly proud of their performance. But we also had some other big performances. Sav, Stretch, and Avery getting 3rd on 303, which means they are now guaranteed qualified into the next finals, because we're not really talking about that. Another FNCS is around the corner. Those 3 are already all through now. We have Deej, Ages, and Skittles finishing on 298. They just slipped out of that top 3 because of their last 2 games, or 3 games, I should say, of shaky performances. We had Jamper, Threats, and Rise in 5th by 1 single point, and I know Jamper was a bit upset about this, saying that that's the best he's ever played, and they still only got top 5, but what a good performance by them as well. We had Mega, Rokane, and Dubs finishing in 6th on 295 points, only 2 points behind that, and again, Dubs and Mega had a lot of people, we started to hear the terms wash thrown around. They should split up. They're not playing well together. They did really, really well. They played incredibly consistently all weekend. We had Bucky, Kanata, and Macwood bring it back in that final day, and it was a rough one for them. They went down to a lot of very, very sketchy server lag situations, but they also admitted there was times they pushed fights they shouldn't have really pushed, and that's what cost them. We had Aspect, Kaz, and Who Fishy finishing in 8th with, again, a ridiculous day 2, getting over 160 points in day 2 when they only got, about less than 100 points in day 1. That is a huge performance from them. Nosh, Nut, and Chucky finishing on 245 with their 2 victory royales. Pam Stout, Carrie, and Fatch finishing on 242. You can look at the whole leaderboard if you want on Fortnite Tracker. I'm just going to run it to the top 10. There were some huge performances across the board, and this was genuinely one of the most exciting and one of the most fun NA East I've ever watched. Moving on to EU, and in case you somehow missed my video yesterday or you just missed, going into day 2, there was 1 point. Half an elimination the difference. Revscard, Andretta, and Savage were in 1st on 166 points. Hen, Janice, Chapix defying what everyone's expectations were, at least mine definitely were, on how well you could do while being contested. 6 out of 6 games were in second on 165. You had Red Rush's team in third, Tayson's team in fourth, and Queasy's team in fifth. Russian team of Kiriachi was on the come up as well, and there's a lot of other big teams that you'll see start rising throughout the day, but it was very, very close at the top. And unlike NA East, things did actually change between day 1 and day 2 for EU. So a lot of the contested teams ended up switching. So XXR, I hope I've said that right. Their team went from Stealthy to Kami Split. Bad Sniper went from Lazy to the Triple House. And of course, we talked about it yesterday, Freemox's team was disqualified. So there's only 2 off-spawn fights left throughout the day. It was Savid versus Nikov's team at Weeping, and then Hen obviously still going up against the team he's been contesting all day at Craggy Cliffs. Game 1 was an interesting one. You had Thomas HD, Anas, and Flick on high ground with 9 kills. It came down to a 1v2 against Rezon. And remember, Reason, Noah Riley, and Vidil so far have been very hot or very cold. They either get a victory out or next to nothing. It's been really up and down for this team. It came down to a 2v1 between Anas and Thomas HD against Rezon, and Rezon ended up winning it. Or a lot of people are saying that it ended up coming down to the fact that Thomas lost it. It went down to a failed medkit. Whether you want to call it a glitch, whether you want to call it a misplay from Thomas, we've seen this happen time and time again. When they try to pop the medkit timer ends, but that 0.1 second activation is required to actually get the medkit to go off, and that's the difference. This one looked especially bad, and in finals lobbies, when, you know, it's end game, there's a lot of build, things can be a little bit laggier. It could have been a lot rougher, but a 7 elimination win for Noah Riley, Rezon, and Vidil is huge. Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD coming in with a little bit of a comeback with a 9 elim second. Should also mention, in this end game, no one at the top really had great games. Mr. Savage didn't have a good game, and neither did Hen, despite Hen's team winning the spawn contest at Craggy Cliffs, now making it 6-1. Game 2, Hen's team wins on spawn again, now making it 7-1. They go towards the end game, but this is when the Kings of High Ground on EU, Queasy, Trulex, and Jerky really start to shine. It went to a colossal crop zone. They take high ground. They ended up getting an 8 elimination victory out convincingly when it came down to a final 3v3 against Floki, Deceptos, and Clement. They managed to take it out. Floki's team got second with 11 kills though, so fantastic performance from them. Kiriachi ended up placing 4th, so the Russians are climbing on the leaderboard at this point. Savage ended up getting 7th, so again, consistency from them. They haven't had too many huge performances, but they're always ending around that top 5 to top 10 mark. Then we had Tayson's team come in 8th, which meant that Savage now takes first place back with Queasy and Tayson right behind him. Hen is unfortunately slipped down from 2nd at the start of the day down into 4th. Game 3 kicks off, and unfortunately for the 2nd time so far out of 9 games, Hen, Janice, and Chapix lose the spawn fight at Craggy, and this is when they start to slip off the pace. Things have not gone well for them to start off day 2. What a lot of us feared for, myself included, no matter how good you are, you could be next level, absolute freaks of nature, but if you're contested 12 games out of 12, it's impossible. It's insurmountable. We'll see if they can do it, but unfortunately, Game 3 has not gone their way. But Reason, Noah Riley, and Vidil, the absolute W King gods, show up massive. They take high ground and get a 17 elimination win in grand finals. Reason getting 10 of those, absolutely popping off. But Refsguard, Andretta, and Savage have come in 2nd place with 9 eliminations. A huge, huge game from them. So far, they haven't really had too many massive games. A lot of consistent smaller games, and this was a big statement when they were already in 1st on the leaderboard. That game saw them have a 25-point lead with only 3 games to go, and Reason's team has now jumped up into 4th. They've pretty much just in this position of 3 or 4 just monstrous games. Game 4, there is still hope. Hen, Janice, and Chapix win the spawn fight at Craggy Cliffs, but as we've seen a few times, they pretty much normally win the spawn fight and go on to get like a top 3 or a victory out, or they go around that 24th place mark, 25th, and that's what happens. Hen, Janice, and Chapix go down in 24th. The end game ends around the lake house on the Kami split, and this is when the high ground kings show up again. Queasy's team taking height in 1st moving. They honestly do it way better than I think honestly any team at the moment. Sav, Stretch, and Avery on NA East are the kings of setting up for high ground. They set up early on half, and that's how they get it, and then they hold it. I would describe the way Queasy plays is taking it. They go up and they take it big. They are really honestly some of the best, if not best, high ground players in the world at this point. Jerky and Queasy 2v1 Snazy for the win at the very end. Andalix, Snazy, and Sweeze had a really nice 9 elimination second though. So again, the team that has been a bit up and down, I was hyping them up a lot out of uncontested caddy. They had to give it up in the finals, went for a weather station mountain split. It's going up and forward, but Savage stays consistent. They finish in 6th place and is pretty much finishing off as a 2-horse race. Very similar to what NA East was. You had Center going up against Reverse. Now you have Savage going up against Queasy at the very end. Queasy's on 289 points at this point, and Savage is in second on 284. They are so close. You do have Tayson, Nate, and Forziar in third, but it's on 235. So when you think a win's worth 30, they're a little bit down. The 2-horse race in Game 5 gets pulled up a little bit short. Hen Janets and Chapix win the spawn fight, but again, they don't pull too many points out of the game. With 2 games to go, pretty much story tells itself. They took to Twitter to vent their frustration. They were not having a good time. The spawn contest finally gave out, and again, just proving the storyline a lot of us were dreading, but kind of knew was coming. No matter how good you are, it's not going to work. But the 2-horse race was getting brought back here in the game number 5. Kinzel, Wakey, and iDrop take height. They win the game with 7 kills, and Floki gets a second with 6 kills. But Tayson closes the gap between second and third with a big 7-kill third. And Savage got 0 points. This is obviously a 0 point, their worst game. They've been playing so consistently this whole weekend, and this is the one that starts to maybe see the cracks and things start to become an issue. But Queasy doesn't take the chance. Queasy and Trulex could have really jumped ahead and just been so breezy coming into game 6, but they go down in 14th. So going into the last game, they have a 24-point lead. That's pretty cushy, but they could have had it a little bit more. Only Savage and Tayson at this point can really overtake them, and it's all pressure on them. Game number 6 gets quickly brought back to a 2-horse race when Tayson goes down in 20th. Thomas HD gets height in the end game, but it was all about the low ground. You had Queasy and Savage both still up. Queasy's team goes down in 7th. Remember, Savage's team has to close the gap though. They need more. So Savage was still up at this point with a 20-point gap to close, and unfortunately he goes down in 6th. They literally went down back to back, and that was it. Everyone knew at that point, with that kind of a point advantage, with 20 points on the board, Savage's team really needed that win, or at least way more eliminations, and Queasy, Trulex, and Jerky walk away with the FNCS championship. But let me tell you the story. Jerky, I mean, this was some of the most heartfelt and touching reactions I have ever seen. I mean, how is this? Jerky tweeted this out ages ago, and he said, I just want to have this moment. I want to have the moment that Booga had with his family when he won, and he did them proud. And then this happened on stream. I'm legit getting goosebumps thinking about it again. I'll show you how it went down.
Today was indeed the day, guys. Today was indeed the day.
Ja sam isto jako sretan, mama. Hvala, mama.
I mean, come on. This community deals with some toxicity at times, right? We have some drama. Everyone gets a little bit of beef going. I'm trying to make sure I focus on more of the positives in Fortnite these days, because I really do think they far outweigh the negatives, and just that's what it's all about. Winning $100,000 each, $300,000 split, making your family proud. And just honestly, if you haven't gone and followed Jerky on all his socials, I'll put them in a link in the description down below. Follow his Twitch, follow his Twitter, follow both the guys, Queasy and Trulex. They truly deserve it. And you could just see how much it meant to all of them, but especially Jerky. If you ever need a pick me up, if you ever need a feel good moment, go to that VOD and just watch it. It's just him going live, crying just tears of pure joy and happiness, and then seeing how proud of him his parents are. Like, man, genuinely getting choked up a little bit. This is what FNCS is all about for me. EU was so fantastic. NA East, so fantastic. I know there's been a lot of drama, a lot of talks about, you know, why was the viewership so low? Fortnite's not getting as much attention. And again, I'll probably make a video on that in a few days with my thoughts, because I genuinely thought this is one of the best FNCSs I've watched in a really long time. There was some glitches, there was some issues. Again, if you want to talk about it, Thomas HD with that med kit, that med kit, whether it was a glitch or a misplay, whatever you want to call it, ended up costing them $15,000. I know I've showed some clips of, you know, Kanata Mac with Bucky with some of the server lag. It's just, but at the end of the day, people's lives were changed in an instant. And I don't think there was almost a single pro that wanted it more and needed it more than Jerky. Like, it clearly meant so much to him. Like, damn, that was a good FNCS. All right, let's run the full leaderboard. We had Queasy, Trulex, and Jerky finish on 333 points, 3 victory hours, $300,000 split, $100,000 each, double what it was for qualifying for World Cup. Like, the money is ridiculous. Refsguard, Andretta, and Savage, obviously big fan favorites. I think Jerky won over the community. They were big fan favorites coming into there when you got names of the likes of Refsguard, Savage, and Andretta. 316 points, 12 games, 1 win, still $70,000 each, $210,000. And honestly, all credit to Refsguard, Andretta, and Savage. I don't want to say they handled it well, because how could you be upset about a second place? But they did have the lead. They had the position to take it, but the high ground kings of EU did snatch it out from under them, but they handled it so well. They were super happy. They were talking about how good they feel as a team, how much they've improved as a team, how excited they are for the next FNCS. It was just wholesome all around the board. You had Forziar, Tayson, and Nate in third on 284, $135,000. Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD, again, that med kit play cost them a little bit. If they got that, the extra points would have put them in third. They're in fourth place and $120,000. Then you had Reason, Noah Riley, and Vidil come back in such a big way. They were so far down the leaderboard after day one, picking up the 5th place. Kiriachi's team in 6th, Antics' team in 7th. Hen, Janice, and Chapix, again, just I'm so proud of them. Contested 12 games to still come ace. They were obviously devastated. That is, they are the reigning champs. I genuinely think they could have done it back-to-back uncontested. Most people think they could have done it, or are almost positive they could have done it, but there's another FNCS around the corner. It opens up that discussion of drop spots contesting. Should there be more drop spots? Again, I keep telling you guys this. Other videos are coming. I'm going to talk about all that. We've got a week now before the new season starts. You guys are loving my thoughts on stuff. I have some big thoughts on how I think the map could be improved to really fix a lot of these issues. We had Kinzel's team in 9th, and then we managed to have Jules' team in 10th. Ridiculous performance. If you guys want to check the whole leaderboard again, Fortnite tracker, but EU wrapped up in the best way possible. It was positive vibes across the board, and man, another FNCS done and dusted. All right, guys, that does it for another video. FNCS is over, but as you just heard throughout this video, I have so many videos coming up. I'm also bringing back my arena kill races that you guys love. I have Deyy and Mero, your FNCS champions, already lined up. I'm going to get them to do an arena kill race. If you haven't seen before the way I do it, it's 3 rounds, $200 to the winner. It's always good content. We go into duos arena. I spectate them. Whoever gets the most kills after 3 rounds wins. I'm going to try and line up a whole bunch of other pros for these because you guys really like them and I love making them. So I'm trying to make this a weekly series. I want to do weekly kill races, but also coming into the new season, I'm going to be doing a season launch party, I guess, getting ready for the new season. We're going to look at all the teasers. We're going to have a good time. So make sure you tune into that. I'll start hyping that up in the next few days, but FNCS is over, but don't worry. We got some exciting stuff coming up. So if you liked today's video, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on anything. Thank you so much for all the support throughout another FNCS. It really means the world to me. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.